Would anyone in this class want to just risk their lives and say, I've made it to the top of Mount Everest? People put their lives at risk every year trying to reach the world's highest mountain, which stands at about 29,000 feet, according to the weekcode.com. And if you think you could do this without any training, I'm here to explain why climbing Mount Everest is so dangerous, and no one should do it. The training costs and health risks outweigh the desires of climbing Mount Everest. First, let me begin by saying the cost to prepare to climb Mount Everest is not exactly affordable. So the price can start at about $45,000 according to the information from adventurealternative.com. Your first finance decision is whether you're going to have a guided expedition or not. And if you do choose to have a guide, this can range from $35,000 to $90,000 according to the adventure blog. Also, you must apply for a permit, but that alone ranges from $8,000 to $11,000 per person. And the price of the permit can vary from which side of the mountain you climb on. For example, climbing from the north side of the mountain is a bit cheaper, and on top of that, you need money for supplies, which can get extremely costly. For example, an essential tool when climbing this mountain are oxygen bottles, which are about $500 each, and people need about 7 of them on a standard expedition, according to the adventure blog. And in addition, it is extremely important to have the proper gear. So this includes different clothing, traveling gears, tents, food, and many other things. For any skiers out there, you know that this equipment is not exactly cheap. And last but not least, it is crucial to have extra money with you, so if you do need supplies, you are able to access them on different camps located on different parts of the mountains. But this costly trip for the possible outcome of death is simply not worth it. And in order to climb, you need to be in good shape physically and health-wise. It's like training for a marathon. You can't succeed and expect to win if you've never ran a day in your life before. And according to CNN, this is the main cause of death on Mount Everest. And there's only so much that you can do to prepare since there are no other mountains like Mount Everest. And according to the Business Insider, climbers should get their lungs accustomed to the conditions in the Himalayas before climbing Mount Everest. But even then, your chances of surviving are slim. But due to the fact that this is the world's largest mountain, a very few select people have climbed it to tell other people about it. Secondly, one should be aware of the health risks when climbing Mount Everest. Just like being in any elevated level, there's a possibility of altitude sickness. And according to the weekcode.com, many people describe it as feeling hungover. So it can make you lose your appetite, which is not vital when climbing the mountain. Due to the physical exertion, your body needs to be well fed due to the amount of energy that is being demanded. According to Life Sciences, high altitude pulmonary edema is an extreme level of altitude sickness where basically fluid starts to accumulate in your lungs, which causes shortness of breath, chest tightness, and bloody saliva. Researchers at Life Science say when experiencing high pulmonary edema, individuals should seek to find lower ground immediately and set up camp for a few days. In most cases, it can be very mild, but if left untreated, it can lead to high altitude cerebral edema, which is also an extreme altitude sickness causing disorientation, hallucinations, and sometimes loss of consciousness. This is a more serious case of altitude sickness. And Mount Everest has a section called the Death Zone, which is about 26,000 feet up in the mountain. And according to the Business Insiders, humans can only tolerate being up 19,000 feet. No human has been known to survive the death zone for long. Basically, what happens to your body is it starts to burn more calories than it can handle, which causes the body to start consuming itself. Quoting Shauna Burke on the death zone is, your body is breaking down and essentially dying. And according to research done at the Business Insider, in the month of May, there are at least 11 deaths in this area alone. Also, lack of oxygen can occur. Unfortunately, some people run out of oxygen in their tanks. And if a base camp is not nearby, there's just not much for you to do, and death is near. Also, researchers at the Business Insider say blood oxygen levels in the blood drop, which can make the heart beat up to 140 beats per minute, increasing your chances of a heart attack. Thirdly, the weather is always changing drastically according to TopChinaTravel.com. It could go as low as negative 70 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's physically impossible to survive in. If you don't have a heat source, no amount of layers can help your problem. Due to its constant changing weather, it's very easy for a climber to get caught and be killed by the weather, when wind speeds are about at least 100 miles per hour on Mount Everest. Frostbite is also very common and is nothing to mess with. It can happen to your ears, toes, your fingers, and the tip of your nose. It's basically when the tissue in your skin turns white and you lose all feeling, and eventually they turn black and blistered according to MountEverest.net. In order to get rid of frostbite, you have to thaw it out in lukewarm water and eventually it will turn to normal. Even after that, you should go to a doctor and seek antibiotics. But according to climbers on MountEverest.net, if you try and thaw it out faster, they will thaw out before circulation has returned, causing the tissues to permanently be dead due to the oxygen deprivation. Hypothermia is also more serious than frostbite. According to MountEverest.net, it can kill you in up to 30 minutes. When the body gets below 95 degrees Fahrenheit, you become disoriented and dizzy, which is not vital when climbing the mountain. Lastly, the last year without any known deaths was 1977. Mount Everest is also the highest graveyard today. The conditions of this mountain are so fatal that there are still 200 dead bodies that are unreachable and that will remain there forever. According to Eric Levinson at CNN, many climbers can get in the way, which also slows climbers down and can cause problems such as kicking rocks down, falling down on others, and causing avalanches. Also, research at Top China also supports this theory that rock falling is also very possible and can be deadly depending on where they're falling from. Also, Top China Travel also warns climbers that there are crevices hidden underneath the snow that can accidentally be mislooked. And due to the conditions, sometimes climbers can't see where they're standing or where they're about to step, causing them to either fall a few feet or plummet down hundreds of feet. Another thing that Top China Travel states is a danger is avalanches, which is a drastic flow of snow going down a mountain, causing people to be buried alive or even get pushed down thousands of feet. In conclusion, after seeing all the possible dangers, I know I would never think about climbing Mount Everest. There are crucial factors that stop me from thinking about it. First, the cost of the mountain is extremely expensive, and it could even increase during the climb if you buy stuff at the base camps. Secondly, there is much evidence supporting that the human body should not be exposed to those extreme altitudes. This leads to my next point, the health risks. Due to the high altitudes, one body rejects it by sending it into high pulmonary edema or even a high cerebral edema. And there are many more causes of death like hypothermia and frostbite. And to avoid all this, people should just stop risking their lives trying to climb Mount Everest. But after hearing this, would you climb Mount Everest?